Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here to take a whole stack of material articles, notes, research, and just distill it all down into what you need to know. And today we're getting into something a little strange. It's one of the most unexpected and I think potentially dangerous side effects of all these new AI tools.
Yeah, it's a real paradox.
It is. You get this huge immediate boost in productivity, which looks great on paper, but that efficiency might be, I don't know, hiding this professional risk that only really shows up years later. We're diving into what our sources call the AI apprenticeship crisis.
Right, and the pipeline of competence.
Exactly. So our mission is to figure out what happens when you separate the output from, real understanding, because the material poses this really uncomfortable question.
A very uncomfortable question.
If AI is brilliant at all that entry-level work, the training wheel stuff,
Yeah.
how does anyone actually become a senior? How do they develop real expertise?
And this isn't just about, jobs disappearing.
No, it's about that pipeline. The entire system of how people get good at what they do.
And when you look at what these models, these LLMs, are good at, it's precisely those junior tasks.
The grunt work.
The grunt work,
Yeah.
the repetitive, the time-consuming stuff. Drafting that first memo, compiling research, cleaning up a messy data set.
Oh, formatting a 100-slide deck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or writing that basic boilerplate code, triaging support tickets, all the things we used to use to bring people up to speed.
Right. The stuff that everyone kind of hated, but you had to do it. It was paying your dues. And now AI does it in seconds, and it looks perfect. On the surface, that sounds like a dream.
It does. And that's why the risk is so seductive. I mean, the sources point out that almost every high-skill career is built on this apprenticeship model. Law, engineering, medicine.
You learn by doing, under supervision.
Exactly.
Right.
A junior comes in, they do those simpler tasks, and this is the key part, they make mistakes.
In a safe-ish environment.
In a safe environment.
Right.
And that repetition, that process of being corrected, that's how you internalize the standards. That's how you develop judgment.
Okay, but I have to push back a little here. I mean, isn't this the same argument we heard about calculators or spreadsheets replacing old ledger books?
Oh, okay.
Technology always replaces boring junior work. Why is this time different? Isn't getting rid of struggle the whole point?
That's a critical distinction the research makes. A spreadsheet, for example, it speeds up the calculation.
Sure.
But the human still had to structure the problem, input the data, understand the logic. The junior still owned the messy process of building the thing.
I see.
AI is different. It can separate the output from the understanding. A junior can use a co-pilot and generate a document that looks like a senior wrote it.
So they get the result.
They get the polished result, but without ever grasping why it's correct, what trade-offs were made, what risks are hiding in there. They get the perfect map without ever driving the road and learning where the potholes are.
Okay, so the organization gets speed, but it's losing depth. Professional depth.
That's what the sources argue.
So the messy work, the boring stuff, it wasn't just labor, it was actually the training regimen.
It was. It forced you to get familiar with the details, the context. It taught you what happens when you make a small error before the stakes got too high.
So if we're bypassing that messy process, what are the immediate dangers? The sources lay out 3 really specific professional risks that are happening now.
The first one is maybe the most insidious. They call it shallow competence.
The shallow competence.
Yeah. If your main job becomes supervising and polishing what an AI spits out, you never do the intellectual struggle that actually builds skill. You skip the hard part that creates what they call mental models.
And what exactly is a mental model? Is that just like knowing facts, or is it something more like intuition?
It's much deeper than facts. It's the predictive framework you build from doing something thousands of times. And more importantly, from getting it wrong thousands of times.
So it's pattern recognition.
It's pattern recognition that becomes intuition. It lets an expert look at a situation and just know, okay, this looks like X, but because of this other factor, we have to treat it like Z.
And you don't build that if you're only ever reviewing a perfect final draft.
You don't. You haven't built the muscle memory to see where things are about to go wrong. And the analysis gives some really concrete examples of this.
Okay.
In law, for instance, a junior who just supervises an AI summary. They miss the pain of trying to boil down a 50-page legal opinion into 5 bullet points.
That horrible, grueling work.
Right, but that's what teaches you to spot the tiny exception that defines the whole case. They just see the clean summary, not the argument it took to build it.
And in finance, I imagine it's the same. An AI gives you a pro forma statement.
Exactly. You get the numbers, but you don't have a feel for the risk because you never had to wrestle with the underlying assumptions. You never saw how the whole model sways when you just tweak one variable.
You miss the smell test for when numbers feel wrong.
You do. And in software, a copilot gives you perfect, clean code. The junior gets the function, but they don't learn how systems break. They miss that agony of debugging something that just should not be failing.
Which is probably the most important training there is for understanding how fragile systems can be.
It is.
And what about something like consulting?
In consulting, they miss the actual craft.
Yeah.
An AI can give you a perfectly structured slide deck for a complex client problem.
Right.
But you've bypassed the difficulty of taking an ambiguous, messy situation and structuring it from scratch. And that's the only way you learn to spot what the client isn't saying.
The hidden politics, the real friction. So they're just making slides. They're not really building strategy.
They're fluent in presentation,
Yeah.
but not in problem solving.
Wow. Okay, that leads right into the second risk the research identifies, which is this illusion of productivity. AI spits out a 10-page draft in 30 seconds. You feel like you just saved a whole day, but someone has to check that draft.
And that's the paradox. Proper verification is not just proofreading.
No.
If the AI made a subtle mistake, a context-dependent error, or if its basic assumptions are just slightly off, spotting that takes a high level of skill. It takes deep judgment.
So you're pushing a junior from having zero skill straight into a high-stakes quality assurance role.
Yes, that's a huge jump.
Yeah.
You're giving them a responsibility they haven't been trained for.
And they probably trust the AI output because it looks so clean and confident.
Of course they do. They haven't been trained to be skeptical, to question the machine. So now they're doing risk management, a senior role, without any of the wisdom to spot the really sophisticated hidden errors.
And that feeling of time saved disappears pretty fast when one of those errors slips through.
Very fast.
So if that's the immediate risk, let's look down the road. What happens in, say, 5 years, when all those juniors trained on verification are up for promotion?
Well, that's the third risk, the missing middle.
The missing middle.
This is the real time bomb. Because if companies cut back on entry-level hiring now...
Which they will. It's an overhead cost.
Right. AI can do it, they'll say.
Yeah.
The problem is the shortage doesn't show up in the next quarter's results.
No, it's invisible for a while.
It is. The pipeline breaks quietly. And then 5 or 7 years from now, it feels like it happens all at once. Suddenly, you have a critical shortage.
A shortage of what, specifically?
Competent people ready for mid-level and senior roles. Managers, reviewers, team leads, the people with deep expertise who are supposed to review all the AI-generated stuff from the next generation.
So you end up with tons of high-speed output.
Mountains of it.
But not enough seasoned humans who can actually judge if it's safe or if it's misleading or if it's strategically sound.
It's a total governance disaster just waiting to happen.
And this has to go beyond just technical skills, right? I mean, apprenticeship was also about learning the culture, the social side of work.
Oh, absolutely. That's the stuff that's so easy to overlook.
Yeah.
When you have to grind through a messy task and then a mentor gives you really painful, detailed feedback, that's where you build resilience.
Yeah.
That's how you learn to work with other people, how to handle a tense meeting, how to deal with ambiguity when a client changes their mind for the 10th time.
And how to take criticism without immediately getting defensive.
Exactly.
But if an AI gives you a perfect first draft, you don't really own the struggle of creating it. So if you get harsh feedback on it, is it easier to just blame the AI?
That's the warning. The sources say if early career work just becomes prompting and polishing, we risk creating professionals who are, and I'm quoting here, fluent in presentation, but fragile in practice.
Yeah. Fluid in presentation, fragile in practice.
They can make beautiful things, but they don't have the grit to handle real-world chaos and failure. They're missing the resilience you need for real leadership.
Okay, so the answer can't be to just ban AI. That ship has sailed. The efficiency is too real.
No, you can't go backwards. The analysis is very clear that the only real response is to deliberately redesign the development pathways.
Redesign them.
You have to. If AI removes the original training tasks, the organization now has a responsibility to replace them with new forms of practice.
Yeah.
You have to manufacture the struggle that AI took away.
Manufacture the struggle.
I like that.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening who's a manager or designs training, what does that actually look like? What are the actionable steps?
The sources detail a few key strategies. First, structured manual reps.
Okay.
You have to mandate that juniors still do certain high-friction parts of the work without AI, especially in high-risk areas. For example, before you let the AI clean a whole data set, make the junior manually scrub a small random sample of it.
So they feel the pain. They understand the messiness of the raw data.
Exactly. They have to feel the friction to appreciate the risk.
And what about that quality assurance problem we talked about?
Second, you need radically better review rituals. Mentors have to stop reviewing the output and start reviewing the process.
So it's not, is this right?
No, it's, how did you prove this is right? You have to teach them to verify the AI's core assumptions, to test the inputs, to document their rationale. The review has to get much, much deeper.
That makes a lot of sense. Is there a third strategy? Yeah, simulation-based training. Create realistic, messy scenarios designed to force them into edge cases. AI is great at the 80% case. Humans have to master the other 20%.
So instead of polishing a perfect draft, you give them a situation where the AI gives two plausible but conflicting answers.
Exactly. And their job is to resolve it. That forces judgment.
This all suggests that how we measure success and competence has to change, fundamentally. If AI can generate infinite output, then volume is meaningless as a metric.
That's the ultimate takeaway. It's too easily faked. The new differentiator for talent, without a doubt, is judgment.
Judgment.
Competence has to be measured by the quality of someone's reasoning. Can they explain why they made a decision, what risks they considered, what evidence they used to go against the AI's first suggestion?
So if I'm a junior trying to get ahead in this world, I need to focus on demonstrating my reasoning, not just my speed.
You have to. And organizations need to change how they do performance reviews. Instead of evaluating how fast someone codes, evaluate how thorough their premortems are on that code's failure points.
So instead of measuring drafts completed in a law firm,
You measure the rigor of the justification for why the AI's legal precedent was rejected for a better one. Promotion has to be tied to reasoning quality, not just speed.
so AI can either be this incredible training tool.
The best ever built? Potentially. It can accelerate learning like nothing else, but only if it's used with intention.
And if it's not?
If organizations just let it replace that apprenticeship layer without building a new learning process, the skills gap becomes a catastrophic shortage of seniors who can tell the difference between good output and good judgment.
So the big question isn't whether AI will do the junior work. We know it will.
It already is.
The question is whether organizations will intentionally redesign how people become competent, trustworthy professionals. It's about respecting the need for struggle.
In the end, as the sources all emphasize, the scarce resource won't be content. It won't be output.
It will be judgment.
It will be judgment.
That is a critical idea to hold on to. And it leaves us with one final thought for you to take with you. Thinking about your own profession. What was the messy, boring, frustrating work, the manual reps that you had to do that you think new people must still do without AI to truly master the craft and build that real professional resilience? We'll let you chew on that. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.